Hello, and welcome to the latest edition of the Navigating Disability podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Jen Abbott. Welcome, Jen.
Hi guys.
Today, we're speaking with Ward Sheehan, whose journey into sustainable and ethical business practices was deeply shaped by his relationship with his father. Through this personal connection, Ward learned the importance of integrity, responsibility, and making a meaningful impact in the world. With years of experience in social responsibility and environmental advocacy, Ward is dedicated in helping businesses embrace ethical practices and create a positive change. In today's conversation, we'll explore his inspiring journey, the lessons he's learned from his dad who was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and how we can all contribute to a more sustainable future. Let's start. Welcome, Ward.
G'day, how are you guys? Kate and Jen, nice to catch up with you guys.
Likewise.
Absolutely. You're well known in the disability space. Tell me how you got involved with disability.
Well, funny enough, it was when I was 18 years old. I was taking a year off school, and my parents had their own business that I didn't want to work in during that time. And I had a mate whose mum worked in a disability group home. And I thought, you know what, I'll give it a go. And absolutely loved the people I was working with. I was working with 6 people with extremely high support needs, with challenging behaviours, and absolutely dove in headfirst, not knowing what I was doing, and absolutely loved it, and never really got out of the industry. So
you'd never had any interest, you'd never known anyone with a disability or a family member with a disability?
I've known a few people with disabilities, but never had an interest in going down that path. And it was just by sheer chance that I actually got into it. So yeah,
Well, it was
Where did
definitely meant to be then, I think. You were meant to land where you did.
it was. Yeah.
and what does that look like over the last 30 years?
So I've pretty much done every facet of disability. So I've worked in SIL and accommodation. I've done a respite centre. I've done ADEs. I've done employment services. I've done support coordination. I've pretty much done everything that you possibly can in the disability field, and I've enjoyed my time in every sector. There's the good, the bad, and the ugly in everything that you work in. And you've just got to find that right pathway for yourself. And now with this ethical tick, I think I'm on the right journey.
So tell me, obviously going through something professionally and being part of an industry, the disability industry,
Yep.
how different was it then actually having someone in your life close to you diagnosed with a disability?
Yeah, so 10 years ago, my wife actually had a workplace injury as well, where she suffered post-traumatic stress and anxiety and depression. And that was just through a workplace incident. And over that period of time, she hasn't been able to get back to work. So it's been a lot of supports to get her motivated and out and about and doing a lot of things again. And I think the real challenging thing for someone that's trying to support a family member, and we see it every day in the disability sector, she would have a case manager and she'd be going along really well and talking to a psychologist and psychiatrist, and then a case manager changes. Her new case manager comes along and says, "Tell me your story." So she has to relive that incident. And all the work that she's done over the last 6, 12, 18 months comes crashing down, and she's got to start pretty much again because she's reliving that every day again. So she builds herself up, new case manager, tell me your story. And it's a never-ending cycle. So I think for me, that was a really big eye-opener to see that in the as a person supporting someone.
As a husband, how did that affect you?
Yeah, it did. It really did, because I became frustrated with the system. Like it was through work cover, and they were pushing for her to get back to work, and that was their end goal. They didn't care if she collapsed at work. They didn't care if she spent 4 hours getting ready for work to actually physically get out that door. They didn't see any of that sort of stuff. They just wanted the tick at the end to say she's gone back to work. And she did trial a bit of work, and that wasn't successful in the beginning. And I just said to her, you do it at your own pace when you're ready, and don't worry about anyone else. You need to be right for you.
Yeah.
And was there support there for you?
Yes, there was. I was able to tap into EAP through my workplace that I was going through. I also was able to meet with her psychologist and psychiatrist without her, and also with her, just to have that debriefing and that support as well.
So you felt supported?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. But also too, I went out of my way to find those supports.
Yeah.
If someone who is in the industry isn't in the industry, doesn't know where to get that support, they're just relying on family and friends, and don't get sometimes the proper support that they need.
While they're well-meaning, they don't actually have the professional background to be able to assist. Yeah. And tell us about your dad.
So on the 23rd of March 2023, my dad was diagnosed with motor neuron. He had a few little issues beforehand, but they finally got the diagnosis on that day. And since then, it's been a steady decline for him, to the point now where he's permanently in a wheelchair. He's incontinent, having strokes every couple of days. He's lost his voice. He can't talk anymore. He can barely get out noise out of his mouth. He's on liquid diets and thickened fluids and all that sort of stuff. So it's
how does
tough.
That affect? How has that affected you as the family and your mum?
A lot. I ring him every day so he gets to hear my voice, because he lives down the south coast of New South Wales, and I don't get to see him every day or every week or every weekend or whatever. So knowing that I've spoken to him and had that goodbye after the end of every conversation is something a bit reassuring for me. And I know that I've done everything I can. So when he was starting to get to a point where he needed a bit of assistance, Mum was not videoing me anymore, and I finally just videoed her one night, and I saw her arm was in a cast, and I said, "What's happened there, Mum?" And she said, "Oh, your dad fell on me the other day, and I've fractured my wrist." And I said, "I think it's time you need some help." And she's, no, it's okay. We'll be right. We're managing. We're getting through. So my mum wasn't looking for help. She thought that it was her role as a wife to look after my dad. So I went down pretty much the next day and said to her, "Right, you need supports in place. We need to do this. We need to do that." And we got everything in place for her. And after a couple of weeks, she couldn't believe the difference that she had. Just with the support staff coming in and helping Dad get out of bed and into bed at night, and that was all she needed. So yeah,
and I think that's the key, isn't it? Because Ward, as you know, my dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and tragically he passed away in 2015. But I think what we go through as a family with any type of diagnosis is it's the acceptance and the grieving process first to kind of establish and, kind of find our new normal. My mum was my dad's carer initially, before she passed away. And she was similar to your mum. It was, no, it's my role. I will look after him. But the toll that it took on her as well, I don't think we were quite naive to it because, we were new to it as well and things like that. So the fact that you were able to convince your mum, I give you kudos to that because we could
Oh, it
never
wasn't easy.
my
It wasn't
mum
easy.
to get help because she was going to do it and she was always going to be there for my dad. It was just when she had unfortunately suddenly passed away that my sister and I had to step in to assist my dad, and it's very raw. It's a
Mm,
big eye opener to see, one of the most strongest people in your life
yeah,
now needing your assistance. So, the fact that your mum was able to accept the support is
yeah,
it's a yeah, it's a good thing. So
yeah.
yeah,
And I think also too, it's quite confronting for you that when you do go in for that support and you are doing personal care on your parent,
yeah,
it's a very different thing. It's very confronting that
yeah,
not that you can't do it or not that you want to do it. But that's my dad.
yeah,
That's someone who's strong and he's been there and he's been everything to me and he's been my hero the whole time through my life. And here he is unable to go to the toilet on his own.
yeah. Or not able to get up or get out of bed,
Yeah,
or
yeah, or
don't,
make a
or,
coffee or
even able to eat one of his favorite foods, which I found, and funnily enough, so destroying for us because he loved a good kebab.
yeah,
Absolutely. And the day he couldn't eat it, you could just see the defeat in his eyes because he knew then that this is going to be his new norm. And I
yeah,
think it's those moments as a family member and one so close that those little things that change within them, and that it just takes away one little piece of their soul, and
yeah,
then you're on the outside trying to navigate that as they progress with
yeah.
their own journey. So it's tough. It's
It
tough.
is, yeah. And it's the little things in life too, the things we take for granted. Like I remember going down one weekend to see Dad, and I was giving Mum a bit of respite, so she was going away for a few days, and she'd left me a list of what Dad couldn't do, because she was very protective of him. And I looked at this list, and it was pretty much sit in your chair, look out the window, and have these foods, right? And I looked at Dad and I just ripped up the list. I said, "What do you want to do, Dad?"
Yeah.
And he said to me, I want to have a barbecue. I haven't had a barbie in 12 months." I said, "Right, let's go and do it." He said, "I want to go watch my exercise physio play a game of footy." So, okay, great, let's go and do that.
Yeah.
Like there was so many things that he wanted to do that Mum wasn't allowing him to do because it was a risk of going out in the cold and he might get an infection, or
Yeah.
if he ate something like a sausage, it might choke on the way down and all that sort of stuff. So you've got that duty of care, but also where's the dignity of risk?
Exactly. And I completely agree because it's a catch 22 because you want to protect them, but you also want them to live their best life. So you got
Yeah,
to find that happy medium. And sometimes it's hard to even look past it
yeah,
because, unfortunately, you know, when my mum passed and we tried to look after our dad in his own home, and he was having mini strokes every so often, and he became incontinent and things like that. So your story is resonating so much with me watching my dad, and we had to put him into care because I had a young family, my sister had a family, and and working and things like that, and we weren't giving him the right, if not the right care, but he needed such intense 24/7 care. We
not
were
the care
doing
that
him an
you,
injustice,
yeah,
like,
not the care that you wanted to give him that you
yeah.
thought he
So,
deserved. Yeah, yeah,
and thankfully, we found a beautiful care facility that took him in and loved him like their own. Like, I couldn't have thanked them enough for the
yeah.
dignity that they gave my dad in those years that he was there, and he was there for 3 years. Um,
Mm,
but we were there every day. It was never, I live locally, so it was every day we were there, making
yeah,
sure he was okay and making sure that he did feel that he was supported by us still, even though we couldn't care for him in his home anymore.
yeah.
But yeah, it is hard. It is
It
really
is.
hard to find a happy medium for all concerned
Yeah,
when
and
going
and
through it.
And I think also too, if we flip it back to us as providers in the disability world or aged care or whatever,
Yeah.
we're never ever going to come up to the standard of the family, giving
Mm-hmm.
them the care that
Never.
they believe the person needs.
Yeah.
So,
And
I
deserves.
sorry.
And deserves.
And deserves, yeah, yeah. So I remember working with a family that was extremely persistent on giving certain cares at certain times, and you had a list of 80 things to do in a morning shift, and you had to write notes on everything, and you had to. It was really to the point, to the minute that you needed to do this, and you needed to stand on an X on the floor, and you needed to be at this angle to support him, and all that sort of thing. And they were never happy with the service. They jumped from provider to provider to provider, and no one was able ever to give that right service. And I remember sitting down with the staff one day, and they were extremely frustrated, and they told me everything that was going on. And I went to the parents and I said, look, we can never ever meet your standards. We will never be able to give the care that you can physically give your son, but we're doing our best.
Yeah.
And if we can give you our best, that's what we can give you. If we're not giving you our best, then I'll tell you that the staff aren't good enough to support your son, and we'll move them to another area or something like that. But I'm giving you the best staff that I possibly can for your son for the supports that he needs.
Yeah.
And after that, they sort of looked at that and went, yeah, you're right. No one's ever going to meet that standard that we can give our own son, and the love and the connection that we've got.
Yeah.
It's a job to the other person. They don't have that connection, and I think that's where a lot of us sort of look at the parents and the family members that complain all the time and go, oh, they're just having a whinge. But it's not that the staff are doing anything wrong. It's just the higher expectations that the family has.
I couldn't agree more. I really could. And that's, with the families that I meet on a day-to-day basis, they are like an extended family, because you need to put yourself in their position to understand their position. And
Yeah.
if you don't do that, then you're not the right support for them. And that's the bottom line, because these are loved ones. These are ones that they're entrusting, this beautiful soul to you, and they want the best for them. So I was just lucky enough that we had an amazing team for my dad, and funnily, I'm still friends with one of the nurses that cared for him right till the end. So it's it's about finding those key supports that have the same values,
Yep.
and will treat them with as much dignity as they deserve.
100%. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Kate, I've taken over. I've got a vested interest in this one.
No, that's absolutely fine. I did have a question and I've lost it now. How you said that with your dad, Ward, that you went down and organised supports for your mum because your mum wasn't in a position. I think possibly she wanted it, but she didn't.
Yeah.
How easy was it for you to organise those supports, and how quickly were you able to organise them?
I was able to connect with people really quickly. Getting the staff to come out took a couple of weeks to get the right staff to support Dad, because Mum had got a lifter, so they needed to be trained specifically in that lifter. So therefore, we needed to find an OT to come out and train the staff on how to use this lifter correctly, and we needed a speech involved to support him with his speech and his eating and swallowing and all that sort of thing. So again, that was another 3 to 4 weeks to do that. So
can I just ask, how old was your dad when he was diagnosed?
74.
Okay, so he obviously then is not entitled to NDIS.
Yes, yeah.
What help is out there for people that aren't entitled to NDIS for these sort of situations?
Yeah, so I'm very grateful that my dad is a self-funded retiree, and he's worked extremely hard and managed his money extremely well. So he's able to provide some assistance for himself. but also too, he's got an aged care level 4 package, which doesn't cover anywhere close to the needs that he's got.
Yeah.
Whereas there's a gentleman that lives probably 80 k's away from him that's under the age of 65 with motor neuron. He's got a package worth $120,000, and my dad's package is worth about, I think it's under 60,000.
And all the assistive technology, yeah. And that's a really interesting one. I mean, obviously I am aware of that, but when you put it that clearly of someone, you know, who is not entitled to NDIS and he gets a $60,000 package compared to someone who is entitled to the NDIS only because of age with the same diagnosis and he gets double the assistance, there's something wrong there.
Yeah, and also too, the Motor Neuron Association is absolutely fantastic. They have a lot of support from Fight MND, and Neil Danaher actually was Australian of the Year, which was
the most amazing man.
He is,
incredible.
Isn't he?
I have put in a request to interview him. We'll see how we go.
Okay, well, talk to me afterwards because I've actually got a connection there. So
that would be amazing because he's an absolute inspiration. That guy, what he's done is just phenomenal.
Yeah, it's incredible what they've done for that thing. So, so he gets a lot of assistance through that, and the average lifespan from diagnosis is 27 months. So it's not a huge thing, and we're coming up to 20 months with my dad. So yeah, it's
a tough one.
It is, yeah. So yeah, but there's a lot of support out there for my mum as well. For like Carers New South Wales, they're able to tap in and do that. We've got palliative care involved as well now, so there are a lot of supports. But again, you have to know about that support. People don't ring you up and say, "Hey, we're from palliative care. We understand you've got some needs. Let's get you in touch." If you don't have that good network around you, then you don't know about stuff. You don't know about anything.
Well, just like your mum, she would have just continued caring
100%
for your dad until someone noticed.
You just go into survival mode. That's what you do. And back then, caring for my dad, we didn't know this. We were all new to it. It wasn't something that we thought we would have to navigate, really. And it was a lot of just investigating and sheer determination to go, what's out there for him. But, you know, there's some people out there, the older generation, that don't have access to computers and Google and all the search engines to try and figure it out on their own. So there's a lot of work to be done with regards to education on all fronts around disability and what's out there to support them. I think it's imperative.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Based on your 30 years in disability, what advice would you give to someone who feels like their disability is holding them back?
That's a really good question. Because again, with my wife, she lives that every day. She really struggles to get out the door. She struggles to do things that we think is a normal thing, like filling your car up with fuel. That's a normal everyday thing for us, but for her, it's a high anxiety thing. Support people around you, believe in you a lot more than you believe in yourself. So maybe ask them for a bit of support on how to actually achieve a goal. Set realistic goals as well. Don't say that you're going to climb Mount Everest in 3 weeks' time. Just look at catching the bus to the shops or something small like that. So and start with those gradual steps.
So it really is about inviting people into your circle and actually relying on people that you trust to show you the way.
100%, yeah. And I think that as human beings, we don't like to rely on people. We like to do it ourselves, and we're taught to be independent and grow up and do things on your own. And we generally don't have a support network around, or one that we feel that we can rely on anyway. We've obviously got a lot of people around us, but we don't ask for that
There's no
support from people.
connection.
No,
And people don't want to be a burden either. They don't want to ask
100%.
for help because they don't want to put anyone out, or they don't,
Yeah.
they think they're an inconvenience. But I think,
You're so busy. You're so busy. I can't
yeah,
ask for help.
and
Yeah,
it's so far from the truth because we drop everything for them. Absolutely.
exactly.
Like you
Yeah,
call, I'm there. But I think
yeah,
it's when they're living in a moment of self-doubt, it's hard for people like your mum, it's hard to reach out and say,
yeah,
I really need help. I'm not coping. And I
yeah.
think it's important that, they do because the world is a beautiful place. You just have to believe
It
that
is.
it's going to be
Yeah,
okay. So,
yeah,
yeah.
it is.
Looking ahead, I do believe society has a long way to go for inclusion and people with disabilities. What are your hopes for the future, both for yourself, your wife? I mean, your dad, obviously, that's a pretty precarious position that
Yeah,
you're in at the moment.
yeah.
How would you like to see society embracing people with disabilities?
Look, it's come a long way since when I started 30 years ago in the group homes, and you'd take the guys out and you'd have a look around the park that you were going to for a barbecue, and you'd just see people pack up and go. Nowadays, it's oh, they're, they're more accepting of people to come out and to do those things, and I think that's a lot to do with the awareness that's been promoted through a lot of things. It's like the big slide and the MND thing that Neil Danaher started up. That creates a lot of awareness for that, and they've raised over $15 million
Massive
worth
amount.
for products for individuals like my dad to have. And even though I'm a one person, on the day that my dad was diagnosed, I challenged myself to run 3,650 Ks in 12 months.
Wow.
And I raised over $12,000 to the Motor Neuron Association as well, which was good. I did my first kilometre with him where we walked together, and we did my last K with him where he was in his electric wheelchair. So
Oh, I love that.
it was
Yeah.
great that he was actually part of it for the whole journey.
Yeah.
I did the Gold Coast Marathon, and Dad got up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get ready to sit in the chair to watch my little dot run around the 42-kilometre track. And I FaceTimed him on the last K, and he ran it with me. So,
Oh,
yeah.
that's beautiful.
You've just made me teary.
So,
Because that would have just lifted his heart so much.
yeah, it has. And I think since I've stopped doing that challenge for myself, he's sort of lost a bit of focus as well. Not that I'm not running still. It's sort of just inbuilt in me now to get out and go for a run.
Yeah.
But I think that, yeah, it's sort of because there's not the challenge there anymore. He's lost that focus. Yeah,
It gave him some purpose to
that's
watch
right.
you
Yeah,
achieve. And like as a proud dad, right? To
exactly right. Yeah,
achieve and smash goals. And
yeah,
that's what they live for at the end of the day.
exactly right. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. No,
And
that's
it is such small steps. You know, in the big scheme of things, you look at that and you've raised $12,000 and Neil Danaher's raised millions of dollars.
yeah,
But you know what? That's such a small step has probably opened the eyes of so many people
yeah,
along the way. And that's what we're looking for. Every little bit counts.
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm very much, and I was one of these people that grew up without being around disabilities, and I probably would have, walked past and put my head down. Nowadays, I'm so much of just saying hello.
Mm.
That's all they want.
yeah,
Say hello. Ask them how their day is.
yeah,
And they just need that connection. Everything comes down to a connection, and we
yeah.
don't have that village anymore.
No, and I think nowadays with the NDIS world as well, like there's so much competition out there. There's so many people fighting for the individual, for their package and to support them. And everyone's the best at what they do. And we've got capacity. Anyone can take anyone, and trying to fit that round peg in a square hole or whatever, that that doesn't work for your organisation, but you know what, they've got a really good package, so I'm just going to try and make it work. And then 3 months later, it all falls in a heap and no one's happy. And yeah, it's...
And whilst this podcast is absolutely not about business or anything else, you have started something called the Ethical Tick, which I absolutely love. It is all about integrity and finding the right providers.
Yep.
How have you managed to work that into the disability industry?
Look, again, there's so much talk about all the bad stuff in the industry, the fraud, the mistreatment of people. So I just wanted to promote the good. As I said to you before we started this, anyone can get registered so long as you've got money behind you to do it. And I'm not disrespecting the registration process, but if you've got a lot of money, you can start up a company today and run it tomorrow without even being part of the NDIS. But
without having any idea about disability.
That's exactly right. So my point of view is to promote the people that are trying to do the right thing by the individual, to try and highlight that. And a lot of the time too, they're the smaller providers that have worked for a larger provider that didn't align with their values or their ethics, and they've started up and just trying to help them get their name out there.
So what is an ethical provider to you? How do you define that, and how would people that are looking for providers, how would they define what they consider to be a good ethical provider?
It sounds stupid, but the simple things, like you maintain a person's plan and budget, like being support coordination. You know that there's companies out there that will go, oh, we need an extra funding bit, or we need to get this to provide the right supports for Gary and all that sort of stuff. We won't worry if we're overcharging by 20 hours a week. We'll just do a change of circumstances towards the end, and once that's approved, we'll be right, and we'll get it through. There's a budget for a reason, and people should maintain that budget if circumstances don't change. But if circumstances do change, then that's when you do a change of circumstances, when it's designed to, not because you've overspent in the beginning and you need that extra funding.
And we're finding that at the moment we've got a few long-term clients that have done changes for specific reasons, but they're not realising now that it's not the same environment. You can't just go back and put in a change of circumstance and expect more funding. That's not how it works anymore.
Yeah.
So right. There is a very big change happening, and I think people have to become far more accountable. And I think my biggest issue is the accountability. There's no accountability by the NDIA, by providers. It's just swept under the carpet.
Yeah, it is. And again, that's why I want to promote all the good within the industry and what the people that are doing it right. And it's just.
And there is absolutely a lot of good. We do have to remember.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Yeah, there's more good providers out there than terrible. Yeah. So all you hear about is the awful in the industry.
Absolutely.
And that's in general, right? You know, you get the minority, it's always tarred with the same brush.
Well, they say 8 out of 10 people will tell you something bad about something, but only 1 or 2 will tell you the good.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely accurate.
All right, we're getting close to the end. Final words, Ward. What would you like to leave our listeners with?
Look, I think for if you've got a loved one that's got a disability or an illness, and just try and support them as much as you can to get the right assistance in their daily lives, to give them a full life that they enjoy, not just what you perceive that they enjoy.
That's really funny to say that, because we did another podcast this morning and he was saying, my son is happy.
Yeah.
That's all I want. I just want him to have a happy life, and he does. Yeah. And it's so important.
It is. And like for my dad with the barbecue, that made his day. He was over the moon that he could have a sausage and an egg fried on the barbie. That's all he wanted. For 12 months.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time today, Wade. We've loved hearing your story, and we will obviously pass on all your details on social media, etc.
That was
Thank
so
you for
good to
your
catch up
time.
with you.
Lord, thank you so much, and I hope everything goes well with your dad.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You take care.
You too.